Welcome to this episode of OITB. Today we're doing a year-end review of the places and faces of 2016. Join us as we look back.
A unique feature of this Voyageurs National Park historical site is that it is only accessible by water, just as it was in the late 19th century. According to the walking tour brochure for Little American Island, in July of 1893 a prospector discovered gold on Little American Island. Word of the discovery spread like wildfire, and by the spring of 1894 exploratory pits and gold mine shafts dotted nearby islands. For the next 7 years, prospectors flocked to the Rainy Lake goldfields to seek, but not always find, both fame and fortune. Ghosts of the Rainy Lake gold rush remain in the form of abandoned mine shafts and waste rock piles. Join us today as we explore a few of these remnants on Little American Island.
Welcome to this week's Out in the Borderland. Today, we're saluting the folks who brought you the weekend at the 2016 International Falls Labor Day Picnic. Organized labor has a long and proud history in the Falls, so join us today as we celebrate work, unions, and a day for laborers.
A dozen of us here earlier, and how many years?
1,500 ears of corn that we shucked, and then we put little sticks in it. It was quite a project. So
that was our job this morning or this
Yes.
afternoon, and now we're going to serve. So, a fun day.
And we're from the nurses, and so we're
Minnesota.
part of the nursing people in town. So it's fun. It's fun. It's a good social event, and
It's good to do to the community.
yes, come on down and eat.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Here we are on the buffet line. viewers of KCC-TV. These are the people that help you get your food.
Yes, we are.
Say a few words to the
Well, we've had a nice crowd out here today, and it's been just gorgeous weather-wise.
It threatened to rain, but it's actually been perfect.
It has. It has.
Not too hot.
Yeah. We
Just
still
right.
got a lot of food.
This is crazy. I'm just taping for the TV station. Here's the pop guy on the table to hand out the food for the Labor Day picnic. What do you think about this?
This is great.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't
It
it?
really is nice, you know, and it's good to see the turnout.
Yeah.
You bet it
Pretty
is.
constant here for the last 2 hours.
You bet it has.
Yeah.
It has. It's great.
Yeah. Really, really enjoy this.
Okay.
My kind of people.
Tim.
Oh, Tim.
That's okay.
Yeah, I know you. So Tim is a teacher, and so is Carolyn at our high school. And look at their laboriously. Oh, those look good. You know, I really don't need one, but I may just have one.
Well, you got to have one.
They are. I love sausages. Oh, they look wonderful.
I'm the nursing supervisor at Essentia Health. So this is our second year that we've been one of the major sponsors for the Color Run here in International Falls for the United Way. We get our volunteers to come to the finish line and throw color at the end. There's a few of us that participate in the race, and it's just a fun day.
The year is 1882. Josiah A. King and his three-man survey crew travel 40 miles from the nearest white settlement, the Grand Rapids of the Mississippi. For a month, canvas tents are their homes, and flour, pork, beans, and dried apples their rations. Josiah and his crew are finishing the last of 3 contracted townships in one of the first land surveys of Minnesota's North Woods. November winds swirl snow around the hardy men as they survey the 6th square-mile area between Moose and Coddington Lakes. Perhaps it was the chilling weather or all the desolate swamps that caused the crew to plot Coddington Lake about a half-mile further northwest than it actually lies. Living legacy. Josiah's error is our fortune. Since the towering pines in front of you were mapped as being underwater, they were spared the woodsman's axe. Like our national monuments in Washington, D.C., the old-growth pines of the Lost 40 bear witness to our heritage. These white and red pines are 300 to 400 years old, originating when the Pilgrims came to America. The trees remain as remnants of the natural resources that drew people to new frontiers, shaping America's character. Old-growth trees made up about a third of Minnesota's forests before lumber barons put their sights on them in the late 1880s. Today, less than 2% of Minnesota's forested land are considered old growth. Fewer than 2,000 acres of old-growth pine remain. The Lost 40 stands as a proud monument of its legacy. This vista overlooks Moose Brook. Once thought of as wastelands, wetlands are now recognized as the richest environment for wildlife and in maintaining water quality. In Minnesota, only 20% of the original wetlands remain. The Chippewa National Forest holds the same acreage of wetlands today that were present 100 years ago. Located along the Laurentian Divide, lakes and wetlands on this forest flow into the North Atlantic, Hudson Bay, and the Gulf of Mexico. Moose Creek flows into Hudson Bay.
Hi, I'm Andy Berry. I am the pastor at Little Fork Lutheran, but tonight we've been making a video about brewing beer.
And the sweet little love song is coming through the air, by the mountains and everywhere. A sweet little love song is singing.
I got into the hobby, homebrewing hobby, simply because there were a lot of beers I would read about in books, and I wanted to try, but were not available. I've never really lived in a lot of big areas, so for the most part, you'd read about a Belgian Trappist beer and then you couldn't find it. And you'd hear a description of it and you'd think, boy, I gotta try that beer, and you couldn't find it. So you brewed it yourself instead of doing that. And also you can dream up just about anything in home brewing and make it. This fall, my wife Rachel was canning some beets, and I looked at the boil water from the beets and I thought, it's just too pretty, I can't throw that away. And that at the same time I was working with some apples that had gone a little bit bad because of fruit flies, and I thought, well, I can't just throw that apple juice away. So I ended up making an apple beet beer. Everything's boiled, so it's all sanitary and safe now, and it's actually turned out very well. But you just can't find that on the market. Nobody's making apple beet beer right now. So.
Let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll, let it roll. Hey! Ja, ik bij mijn lachtijd op, en man nur met det. Så giver den sig hvis I sakser noget til det. Ja, ik må lachtijd op, en man nur med det.
We've now poured the wort into a sanitized bucket. That bucket is now topped with a sanitized fermentation lock, so that only allows air or CO2 to go out, not to come in. So we have a sanitized environment. It's not sterilized, but sanitized. And we're about to pitch the yeast. So what's a little bit different on this is, since I'm doing a lager, we need to make sure that we have lots and lots of yeast in there, because this is going to do its work at about 60 degrees in my basement, which is cooler than an ale yeast would work at. The difference between ale and lager is that a lager likes cool temperatures and works from the bottom, and an ale likes warmer temperatures and works from the top. There are yeasts that kind of bend that distinction, but that's what they are. So this little rainbow of yeast packets here is going to go in there. Ideally, it would be nice to have one strain and have enough packets for it, but I don't have enough packets of any one strain, and I want to make sure this beer takes off nicely. So I'm just going to mix and match 3 different styles of pure lager yeast, and we'll just kind of go from there. One's a new one I've never used before. I'm kind of excited about it because I'm a geek like that. The others are just, they're all part of the Safe Lager from Fermentus. Really nice dry yeasts, so very exciting. So now we'll cut the top open and we'll pour them in. There's a lot of debate on whether or not you need to rehydrate your yeast. Since I'm pouring so much yeast into this beer, I'm not really worried about whether it hydrates properly or not, because there will be plenty of yeast. So I'm just cutting the corners off each one. then we're just sprinkling. The only part to be careful of is make sure that we don't drop these packets in the wort because it's not sanitized. But this isn't wort anymore, it's now actually beer now that we've added the yeast. So we just seal this up. And oh, there we go. It's bubbling through, and the bubbles are the sanitizer coming out. This is star sand, so even if some of that got in there, it's all right because it's an acid based. It'll taste just like the rest of the beer, just with a little more acid kick to it. So there we go.
Well, that's the end of our look back at 2016's OITB. Thank you for joining us this year, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2017 as we go out in the Borderland.